As I've grown in my career, I frequently need to get insight from other people who are not in my bubble, and I find a way to build community for that need. And over time, I realize I've created a bunch of these different kind of communities.
Let's start off with a little get to know you segment.
Okay.
Little rapid fire questions. I'm going to ask the question. You can answer it. I'll also answer it just to keep it even.
Only if I can fire back.
You can fire back. The best advice you ever received?
I think one of the best pieces of advice I ever got, the whole busy is the new stupid concept, is like carve out more time for yourself. That it's just so easy, especially now, to be chronically scheduling between meetings and doing with email and Slack and notifications, that giving yourself permission to be offline, to think, is actually incredibly valuable time.
There's so much more noise than ever before.
Yeah.
What does freedom mean to you?
Ooh. I'm going to go with personal freedom in this case, and I think it's the ability to explore ideas that may or may not work, but the opportunity to at least dive into something. I am a creative person. I like to explore lots of different things, and nothing infuriates me more is when I have a conversation with someone, can we do this? And their instant answer is no. I'm like, give it a minute. Let's think about, like, it's probably impractical, but so I've actually asked this with a lot of my peers, people I work with, is that if I ever come to you with a pretty bad or crazy idea, lean in before you lean out, just so I can feel the opportunity to explore a new thing. TXI gives me all kinds of freedom to do different things and try different things. They're not all gonna work, but I will say it's a blessing to be able to have enough creative rope to hang myself and try different things.
Which you do all the time.
Yeah, happens. How about you?
Well, on that note, it's funny, my former boss, similar situation, he always used this analogy of balloons. He has these ideas, and he just wants you to not pop them. He's like, let them just float up there in the ceiling and let them be there for a little bit, and maybe they'll turn into real things and maybe they won't. But when I've got my idea balloons,
you don't have to pop them right away.
Don't pop them right away. Is the whole thing.
I like that, yeah.
It just gives a little bit of time to allow for your either super awesome idea that's definitely going to change the world, or your super stupid idea that should not have ever been said. But let's allow ourselves the space to say it. Let's talk about Mark, the CEO.
Yeah.
Because you are a CEO. How long have you been the CEO of TXI?
Coming up on almost 10 years now.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah,
that's
thanks.
like a huge milestone.
Company's 25 next year, which is bananas. I joined as the COO and then took on the CEO role a few years later.
Wow, that's huge. For those who don't know what TXI does or is, what's like the quick one-liner?
So the abbreviation stands for Technology, User Experience, Innovation. These are the three things we care about most. But we are a custom software company that builds intelligent products for our clients. And so an intelligent product is a digital application, so like it could be a mobile app or a web application. Something that uses data to create a form of intelligence for our clients, to make recommendations, to make predictions, things like that.
Yeah, and to me, that world seems so nebulous. You can apply that solution to so many different problems. So as a CEO, I'm curious how you spend your time, because I would imagine there's lots of things you could spend your time on if you really wanted to, and the amount of noise that you're dealing with at that level. If you look at like a year or month or whatever time you're committed, like the timesheet of Mark, how would you divide your time, how you focus your time? Are there certain categories or buckets that you use?
Yeah, so there is, especially now, you mentioned noise, like there seems to be a lot of noise, and the question is, how do you find the signal from the noise?
Yeah.
Which also dictates how I spend my time.
Yeah.
When you orient, especially now, when you orient your thought process around what can technology do, you get all kinds of noise, because it can do a lot, and it changes every...
It's like the AI thing right now, right? Where should I use AI?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly the kind of noise. You have someone's board, like, hey, what are you doing with AI? Because it changes so rapidly, there's a lot of noise. If you can focus instead on what's the problem I want to solve, that's where you actually get much more interesting conversations, and there's a lot of signal there around what should a business be doing. This is like design thinking 101. Don't focus on the solutions, think about and try to spend more time focusing on the right problem. So a lot of what I'm trying to do is spend my time that way. So I talk to probably half of my job is spending time outside of the company now, talking more to clients and to prospects about the problems in their business and trying not to get them too excited about potential solutions, which is what everyone gets really excited about. It's like, well, all these things that AI can do.
So would you classify that like as new business, relationship management, or is it really just you doing research
A bit of both. I've made it a career of meeting the right people at the wrong time. And so you might find that you have a good relationship and you're talking to someone, and then, they might become a client 2 years from now. But in the meantime, you're just sharing ideas about what's happening in the industry.
But you've found out, like, how do you know that that's a good use of your time?
One, because I get a lot of insight back for TXI about what's happening in the industry. Two, I found that, again, if I can help them connect to other people, I sometimes feel like my job is really CIO, Chief Introductions Officer. Like, oh, this person should meet that person. Nothing to do with TXI, but there's value in making connections.
So they think of you as somebody who's showed up and given value in their life, and then they think of you when it's time for that when that problem comes.
That's how business development typically works. If you're not like just pounding the pavement and calling people, cold calling and emailing and spending spam, like if you can find some way to be valuable, and one way to being valuable is to give them ideas, and the other is to give them introductions. And then eventually it'll turn into, hey, we could really use your services as well.
So this is something I'm trying to figure out too. Like, as a busy person who could give value to a lot of different people, like how do you organize 50% of your time as that? Do you have like an idea of the types of people you should be meeting with, and is that all organized? You don't have to give me the whole matrix here, but
so I mean, I think first is I like to find people that are relatively new in their role. I find those are the most fascinating. So someone I would call like a courageous executive is a good nickname for it. So you're relatively new in your role. You were brought in as some kind of change agent in your company to think about a new way of working or a new way of getting people to organize. They are mandated to do something. They want to have
they've got to make a change.
They want to make a change, and they want to have a big swing. They want it to be a big win. So I love talking to those kinds of people.
And what's your excuse for reaching out to them? Or do they know? I mean, you're kind of in the community.
I might already know them. I might know someone who knows them. We might just connect at a conference, and so I spend a lot of my time going to industry events, things like that. And sometimes it's just, hey, congratulations on a new role. I'd love to pick your brain about your first 100 days and see how it's going.
And obviously, I think there's a certain level of like, oh, the CEO of...
The stupid title helps a lot. Yeah, I think sometimes that does help open doors. So anyway, then the other quarter of my time, I would say, is spent really focusing on my own company and culture of the company. As CEO, you have a lot you have your hand on the wheel about how things are going.
How many people are at TXI?
About 70 now.
Okay.
And then I have a number of, I shouldn't say it's a quarter of my time, that's a lie. I'd like it to be a quarter of my time. Is a chance just for me to be learning and growing.
As the leader of a company.
Yeah, modeling that, behaving that, and actually trying to get some of that time to be actively thinking about my own growth and the company's growth.
So you got it in 3 chunks. You got like out there time, adding value to the world, kind of new business, relationship building. You've got the 25% that's growth for you and 25% that's culture for the company.
But what's interesting is I said, like when I first took on the role, because I came up as a chief operating officer, my hands were in all the pie, and so I was very busy operating, and I thought that was the value I brought. I really did. I thought the biggest value I can bring is I do all these things. I know recruiting, I know sales, I know project management. I can do all these things, and so I thought the value I had was I had my hands in everything. And then my team kindly reminded me as we were getting bigger, they're like, that's why you have a leadership team. Get out of my way, please. Like, you should be doing the things that we can't do, spend time out in market, but let us run the company.
Yeah.
That was a big hit to my ego to be when I was actually asked by the team to stop doing that. I thought I was so good at those things.
Why would you not want me doing that?
They're like, yeah, but we have that. You can do other things now. So I think, interestingly, is how I spend my time now is very different than how I did it when I first took on the role. It's changed. It continues to change.
That's so cool. Is there a biggest time waster? You keep getting sucked in, or you find yourself sucking yourself in?
There are topics I think I care about more than others. So I would say that, for example, I brought in a chief revenue officer because he is far better at running a sales process. I will do the stupid, just like shake hands, and then 3 months later realize we probably need a contract, don't we? And so there are things I'm like, I'm not that guy. I'm not the one who reads the legalese.
Systematize all that whole process.
Yep, there's a person that we have that does that way better.
So that's how it was being done before? Like you were kind of leading it?
I would lead something and I would skip a lot of steps in the process. There's a better way of approaching sales to make sure everyone's on board and everything's, all the I's are
There's process.
Crossed, and process is not necessarily my best thing. Yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah. So I found good to do the things I'm good at and do the things I'm not.
So when we think about you as a CEO, one of the things that's really interesting to me is just and this is probably in that 50% bucket with you out there with clients, but you do all these interesting things. You have this Kermit camp retreat. You do this thing called the walk shop, which maybe is out different from TXI, but maybe connected. I was at this Chris Kindle Market event that you invited me to that was all about bring an interesting person and interesting things happen and hang out and drink barley wine or whatever we were drinking. Biggest Mistake Night was a thing that you did, that you put on and hosted. You have all of these different things that like, I don't think about CEOs doing, like, maybe it totally makes sense, but they're just, the way they're packaged is different. Like, help me make sense of that. Like, what are those things? Why are you doing those things? How does it connect?
So it's something I'm only recently coming to grips with, to be honest, because it seemed like a whole bunch of, from the outside, like different random things that I do. Almost all of them have come from the fact that as I've grown in my career, I frequently need to get insight from other people who are not in my bubble. And I find a way to build community for that need. Yeah. And over time, I realized I've created a bunch of these different kind of communities. So, for example, when I first got to TXI, I came here, moved back from Germany, didn't know anyone really in Chicago. Found myself in maybe the worst position I've ever been in, where we had almost like 60-70% of our revenue was locked up in one account, and it was a terrible, terrible relationship. And we ended up parting ways with our biggest client, which is a very brave thing. Kudos to Josh, my founder, for doing this, but fired our biggest client basically because they weren't treating us very well and wasn't good for our business. And now all of a sudden we had not a morale problem, but we had a pipeline problem, we had a collections problem, a revenue problem. Like when you replace that much of your revenue, it put a lot of stress on the business.
Totally.
And I realized, I was taking it for granted. I thought, how this will be such a simple thing, running a 20-person business. How hard can this possibly be? Yeah. I realized I had no idea of what I was doing, being an owner and running a business where you are all of the things, everything from legal to sales to recruiting. And so I started reaching out to some of my direct competitors, saying, let's go out for eggs, and go out for Lou Mitchell's for breakfast. I can teach you about how to run a bigger company, because I came from a much bigger consulting company, but I didn't know how to do these smaller companies. And so we started just having conversations amongst friendly competitors around what does it look like. With the theory was that you don't want to be all gloves up. Like, we're going to run into each other, we're going to be recruiting against each other, maybe selling against each other. It'd be nice if we got to know each other and we could just exchange ideas of how we could learn from each other, more as worthy rivals than as competition to be beaten.
Sure. But that's interesting. I mean, I don't know that many people do that. Many industries do that.
There's enough work out there. When you're a small business, I think there's so much more value in being able to get insights than there is about fearing competition.
So everybody has to kind of show up with that.
It's been one of the things I did. You got to create that culture. And so that first year I did it, I actually hosted my very first, what I would call, weird immersive experience. And I'm now known for this in the industry, doing these weird immersive experiences. But the first one was, I decided to do it in a neutral spot. So it was in Charleston, not near Chicago.
Okay.
No one had a hometown there. I invited about 20 other companies who did exactly what I did, but were some of the best in the industry. And we all got together to talk shop. So near an airport, great food, neutral location. And that first year, everyone was kind of wondering, like, why are we here?
But they were intrigued enough to show up.
It was hard. Actually, I had to ask my partners. I was like, hey, I need $50K to put on a conference to make our competitors better. Like, that was a hard ask.
I'm not going to do that. We have a pipeline problem right now.
Yeah, they're like, by the way, solve that. But I needed insight. I needed to get some ideas of how to do this better than I could do myself. The funny thing, this was my very first weird immersive experience. I didn't know how to do this well. And so we rented a house that had 25, it said it slept 25 people. I had 25 people from around the world coming in. I thought this was going to be genius. And 3 days before the event, someone's like, when a house says it sleeps 25, it's 2 in a queen bed and 2 in a king bed. You're making your competitors sleep together. And I was like, did not think about that. Let's get some more houses. So that started. That was my very first one of these, is like, how can I learn from my competitors? And this started this idea of cooperation, or cooperating with one's competitors. And now, at least twice a year, we all get together and talk shop. There's an active Slack channel. We're all giving each other insights and ideas and advice. People have gone from one company to another. Some companies have merged. It's been creating a sense of trust amongst competitors is one of my proudest accomplishments, to be able to create that kind of a thing.
The amount of vulnerability that requires for not just you, but like the other people too, to show up with.
And this is where the idea of biggest mistake came from, because we realized when we got these competitors together, if you started off by saying, what's so great about your company, you'd instantly be on the defensive and be like, stop bragging.
And then you put like the elevator pitch hat on, and you're like, hold on, let me 3 bullets or.
But so instead we say, what's the biggest mistake you've made since the last time we all got together? And everyone's like, oh God, I screwed this up, these are all my failings. And people get pretty vulnerable. I had to lay off a bunch of people because of a mistake I made. I had to shut down an office because of a mistake I made. And this is competitors exchanging this information. It just built a tremendous amount of that vulnerability and trust. And that was what biggest mistake came from, was like, how do we take the city of Chicago and talk about mistakes and failures on a more epic scale?
Do they all of these unique, what were you calling these?
Weird immersive experiences?
Weird immersive experiences. Do they all involve a level of vulnerability of sharing something that you might not normally share?
I feel like that's the best way to actually break down barriers and get to know each other better.
For sure.
I've realized this is maybe an atypical thing for a CEO, but Every time I think about how I've grown, it's because I've built a community of people that give me advice, and I build a community through immersive experiences.
Yeah.
So I always find a way to build some kind of experience into the way that I work.
In the immediate short term, I get how you would grow as an individual and as a better leader and that sort of a thing. Do all of these things connect back to helping the business? I mean, obviously, you're helping the business be more successful as a leader. Can you connect the dots there?
For the company, so when we first started just talking more to our competitors and getting time together, two unique things happened. So one, as leaders, you start talking to your counterpart, right? So you're a CEO in another company, and you get to know each other better. And then invariably what happens is you will need something. And so for me, this happened where we had a big client, and overnight they lost their funding. And so our team did nothing wrong, but all of a sudden I just lost an account.
Yeah.
And so I was in Slack to my friendly rivals and saying, oh, I hate consulting sometimes. This happened. Now I got 5 people on the beach. And someone else, a friendly competitor in Ohio, said, oh, we just got this huge lead come in, but we're too busy. Do you want it?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll take that. And so
I'll take it.
You started getting this benefit of they needed someone they could refer that they trusted would do good work. And that was something that we had built up this relationship.
Because you guys knew each other.
So we knew each other, and you knew what we were good at when they knew what we weren't, and they knew we had a really strong mobile team. But there's other cases where it'll be freezing in Chicago in January, and be like, hey, do you want to go spend some time in Uruguay with our partner and get some time there? And so you have an opportunity to learn from each other's teams. At any one point in time, we probably have at least 4 or 5 other companies helping TXI on our projects. Because now as CEO, rather than trying to always balance sales and recruiting, which is impossible, I just focus on sales. And if I ever get oversold, I have a list of friendly companies that are itching to work on TXI projects that we get to then work with and learn from. So there's tons of benefits to TXI.
That's an interesting insight, though, especially because it's different with a company of 10 people versus 70 people versus 700 people and stuff.
And I actually thought as we got bigger, we'd solve that problem. Honestly, you were always balancing those two things. It's not like when we all went, I'm used to when we got to 70, we'll have this all worked out. Nope, I'm still borrowing help. And when we get to 700, I'll still be doing the same thing.
That is kind of an interesting farce as like a leader or a CEO or somebody who's like, one day I'll arrive. And the problems will have been solved, and then it's like they're never solved.
Do have other problems, but consulting is always balancing these two things. And what I hate to do, let's say we sell a big project, and now I got to go scramble and recruit 5 people. I'd much rather hire slowly and just borrow the help that we need. And I know these people do really good work. TXI values a lot from this idea of cooperation. It started off as more give Mark advice. Mark doesn't know what he's doing, and it's kind of blossomed into this community of high trust.
Well, thinking about the business here, and I've known you for a while now. I think it's been over probably 10 years.
Yeah.
Close to it. Fungai's been around for 8 years. I knew you before that. What's the most exciting thing that you and TXI are working on right now? Like for you, what's the most exciting thing?
I think some of the interesting things we're able to do now is where we walk. So we'll contact like a new prospect or something. Give us a moment to walk around your factory floor or rail yard, whatnot, with a data scientist and an engineer and a strategist and a designer, and just come back with here's what we could be doing a bit differently.
Is that a thing that you just invest in? Is it often a paid engagement?
This happened in 2022, the bottom dropped out of the market. So if you were in consulting, you had a bad Q4 in 22 and a really bad 23. Most of people in my industry had layoffs. I think like IDEO shut down in Chicago. Most of my competitors had these massive layoffs. Everyone was slowing down because inflation was high, cost of capital was high, AI had just hit the scene and no one knew what was going on. Yeah. So everything slowed down and no one knew what to do. We had, as everyone else did, a big beach, and so we decided, well, we have the people available, why don't we just start going in and, again, rather than talking about what AI can do, let's talk about more generically what it can do for you. So let's go to your yard, or let's go to your factory floor. And it started this process where we get all kinds of unique ideas, my favorite of which was going to a company. This is a publicly traded company over 150 years old, a big rail car company. They asked me to present to their board, and I got into this room, and it was like this big oak table, and the wooden doors open.
Oh, yeah.
And
everything's heavy.
Everything's solid furniture.
Not moving that. This one, don't. You can throw this.
The technology guy seems like he has a different idea of running our rail yard. You've got 30 minutes, go. Right. And I was like, great, let me tell you what we saw. It wasn't academic, it was like, oh, we got the steel-toed boots, we walked around the yard.
Were they impressed?
By the time I went down, so I made the pitch, I went downstairs to get Shake Shack and just said, like, what just happened? Like I was
Why did I do that?
Getting my fries, and by the time my fries got there, they called me back and said, love the ideas, let's get going.
So you tried something, you didn't know how it was gonna go. You guys invested this time into this.
And so I think that's the thing I'm excited about is now, rather than just being able to show someone like a deck, you can get pretty far. You can be like, here's an idea, here's a prototype, we can make this and start moving things pretty quickly.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about that kind of stuff.
What's the biggest conversation you're having with clients? clients? A topic, a theme? Is there something coming up a lot right now?
So I mean, a lot of it is how do we leverage the data that we have? How do we integrate the systems we've got? There's this feeling of I'm going to be displaced. I'm going to be disrupted. Things are changing too fast, but they're not changing fast internally. What do we do to catch up? And so this is, again, a signal and noise. There's a lot of noise out there. That creates a hype cycle. The question is, how do you find the signal in the work? And so this is where we orient around what problems are you trying to solve? Let's talk about that. If you chase the what can AI do or what should my data look like, it's a whole bunch of noise. And so I think this is where we're really trying to get more excited about what the problems they're facing. And so in this case, let's go to a rail yard. Let's actually walk around your factory floor or your shop instead.
That's cool. How do you and TXI show up to that differently? I know you're BFFs with all your competitors, but
Very friendly.
how do you show up in a unique way compared to those competitors, do you think?
So I think the companies I know that do this work well understand design thinking approach. They understand software. They understand data. I think we're really good at it, but I like to think that we have some really good rival competitors that are also good at that. I think the thing that differentiates TXI is there are certain industries we just have more expertise in. There are some people that really do a lot of work in fintech. God bless them. We don't. We really think if you're a company that moves, makes, or maintains things, that's my market. And so supply chain, transportation, logistics, any of those blue-collar industrial companies, that's where we spend a significant amount of time. And so chances are we'll have more insights about what you could or should be doing because we've done that kind of stuff before.
It's so interesting because we've kind of arrived at that conclusion too in terms of our industry expertise, and it's like a lot of, these companies that they make something, they're a manufacturer, they've like safety, security, all of these there's a lot of rigor in terms of how they operate. And so even though it's Fun Guy Media, we're helping these companies that maybe aren't the most fun companies figure out a way to connect that message. But I'm curious, how did you guys arrive at it's those industries? Was it because you were already doing a lot with them and it just kind of happened?
So we looked at three different things. We said, one, where do we think we have the right to win? Where do we have a lot of expertise and experience? Two, we thought, where are there industries that are actually making investments and doing things where we think there is good traction in that space? And three, we thought, where do we have really good case studies, good reference materials and things like that.
So a little bit of you already were kind of building in you had that in the...
So I mean, honestly, we didn't get to that point for we're about to be 25 years next year, but for the first maybe 18 of those years, we're like,
we can do it all.
We can do it, Come to us with problems, we got to answer. We can help you think. So we did work in a lot of nonprofit, in pharma, and some government work. That was fun. Academics, retail, we had done work in a lot of different areas.
Sure.
And as we started thinking about how do we grow and scale, this is where we get to more thought around be rich in the niche and try to own a piece. And so
the riches are in the niches.
Yes, that was an area for us to start focusing more.
Yeah. We're a creative content marketing agency. We help companies tell their story, and content's a big part of that. Are you guys creating content, video, and otherwise? What are the things that you're kind of doubling down on, or what's working for you now?
So I think the interesting challenge is finding the story inherent in individual team members. There are
helping them tell the story themselves.
Well, even just finding the story. There are people who have incredible things to say, and they're like, well, I don't have anything unique to say, or no one wants to hear that from me. We're like, no, you have tons of ideas. Right. And so a big part of it is trying to get that out of people.
And where does that practically happen? If they need to have a story to tell, are they talking to clients directly? Or?
So we have different levels. I mean, the first thing is, hey, can you just tell your story to us? Let's just do it
culturally.
We have a town hall. Share your ideas. Let's get it out there.
Yeah, let's have some positive momentum.
And that allows people on our marketing team to be like, ooh, that's a good story. We can totally help you.
We can use that for their purpose.
And then we can interview them like we're doing, and then turn their story, because sometimes people fear the blank page. So it's easy to get the story out of them, and they can start thinking about it. The second level is, tell your story on one of our platforms, speak on our little megaphone of our podcast or our blog, our newsletter. And the third is all right, now let's get your story ready for Forbes or Fast Company or speaking at a conference. And so we can help them kind of become different levels of engagement. But a lot of it is that I think people have this inner brilliance, but they're like, no one wants to hear from me. And you got to find a way to be like, no, your ideas are valuable. And even if this is an active conversation, your take on it is unique. Right. How do we get you to participate more? That's what we're trying to get more involvement in that kind of thing.
That's cool. I love it. I mean, it's so much of knowing you for this long, but it's all over the website, it's all over in the world, the PR, the Forbes stuff. I mean, your culture is just such a focus at the company. It feels like that's what you've spent a lot of your time doing, and that's what works, maybe?
For me, at least, yeah. Like I said, 25% of my time is thinking about the culture of the company and what we could and should be doing better or differently. We talk about experiences, but the employee experience of TXI matters a lot to me. And so think about what's the right way to treat our clients is have exceptional people. And the way to have exceptional people is to really, really index and care about your employee experience. We talk about it a lot. We write about it a lot.
Yeah.
We actually broke LinkedIn. I think when you apply and you have to write up a job description to post on LinkedIn. I think it's like 1,000-character limit, and ours was like well over that. Because I was trying to describe what the job is like, what success looks like at 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, the kinds of projects you'll work on. Like it was such a long description that LinkedIn was like, too much. When you have people who are applying and they have no idea what your company's like from the inside, I try to be as transparent as we can about this is what you can expect.
I have one question I like to end every podcast with, and the question is, what is a word or phrase that we should no longer use in the workplace?
So I'll be curious to get your take on this because this has good and negative connotation. But the phrase of move fast and break things. And I think that resulted in a lot of people not really thinking about who they were hurting, what they were breaking, the impact it would have on things like data security, privacy, a lot of DEIB concerns. And so there is an aspect of, especially with AI, I can move really quickly now. But I think doing so without any thought about implications to just basic human justice concepts and data privacy concepts. Like you see these companies who they quickly spun up a bunch of agents and 9 minutes later deleted their entire company database. Like this has happened several times.
Right, this is happening in real time.
I believe in the benefit of a bias towards action, and I believe in the benefit of speed to value, but I think this notion, the Silicon Valley notion of move fast and break things, has been a net negative for humanity. And so I don't think it's a good mantra for companies to have.
What should we say instead of move fast? Is it just the opposite? Move slow?
I think speed to value is the thing to think about, because if you're going to be moving quickly, you want to make sure you're creating some kind of value and that value can be demonstrated. This is actually something I love about Chicago. So when you compare Chicago startup scene to other cities, we don't have the most startups and we don't have the largest number of entrepreneurs, but we do have the highest ROI.
Like in terms of the value?
In terms of the value they create.
Really?
Like they actually create
That's
practical
cool.
value. And so
that's a cool stat.
It really is. There are companies in California where you talk to them and you're like, how do you make money? And they're like, oh, I don't know. We'll just raise another round.
Yeah, you're like, there's no value there.
It's like, no, we're doing something of value. We're creating a benefit. And here's how we're going to make money. And here's what the ROI looks like.
I dig it. Okay, speed to value. No more move fast and break things.
What's your take on that?
What's the word or phrase?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's funny because I ask this question so many times, so it becomes like this whirlwind of what everybody else has said. But like, some people go to like classic, business speak jargon, like synergy, and some of those were like, please don't let me. Let's not use any of those terms. So I've got all those floating around in my head. Guys, what was like one of the best ones that we've? Kat, do you remember any that we've heard that you're like, that's a good one?
Greg Wortman one time, he was like, he said like this employee gave him advice to stop saying the word awesome to everything, because if everything sounds so awesome, then nothing's awesome.
I have a tell. Apparently I say interesting if I think it's a bad idea. And so someone's like, you should do a podcast with Fun Guy. I'm like, oh, interesting. I just think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, that was a bad idea. Yeah. Mark, this was awesome. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, of course.
El Fango.